it's Iain from RTO here. Welcome to another pick and mix. 2 birthdays done, and now we got this. It's a very busy day today. I don't know if I'm on my head or my elbow. Anyway, today we're going to do it mixing it up, which means we're going to look at the work of a producer. And today we're going to look at the work of Canadian producer, sound engineer, musician, Robert Jens Rock, or we know him as Bob Rock. He was born in Winnipeg in Canada in 1954, and he has produced lots of albums and played on albums as well. Not just albums he's done, he has produced a couple of singles for Bon Jovi, Wanted Dead or Alive and Living on a Prayer, which he got 4 times multi-platinum for Wanted Dead or Alive and 2 times for Living on a Prayer. He's worked with some of the greats, as you will find out. So let's have a look at his mammoth work. So it all started back in 1980 for him, and the first album that he ever was sole producer was a band called Pointed Sticks, and they're a sort of a Canadian punk rock band with a new wave sort of thing, and the album Perfect Youth. I've had a listen to it, it's not too bad, and the title track's pretty good, and The Witch. Now, in 1981, he forms a band called Payloaders. He was played in it and he produced it, and their first album was called In a Place Like This. It's okay, it's not what I call a brilliant album, but there's one good track on it, and it's called You Can't Walk Away. We'll move on to 1984 now, and he works with a band called Servant, or a Christian rock band. It's not a very good album. I did find a few tracks and I wasn't that overly impressed, to be honest. 1986, he works with a Zaccosta. Now that is Alfred Peter Alfie Zaccosta, who's an Italian-Canadian musician, on an album called A to Z. And once again, it is not the best album I've heard. 1987, another band that he was in, and it's called Rock and Hide. The album's called Under the Volcano. Basically that's where it belongs. There's nothing on there that really floats my boat. 1988, he produces the debut album of German-American band Kingdom Come. Good band. I've got this album, saw them on this tour. Pushing hard, and there's one of the tracks on there, but we might talk about that later. 1988 as well, he worked with a Canadian blues singer called Colin James. It's not too bad, that album. There's nothing there that really is memorable. It's just a bog standard blues album. 1989, a big year for him. He works with the Cult on their fantastic album Sonic Temple, American Horse and Sweet Soul Sister, 2 of my favourite tracks off that album. Moving into 1989, he works with Blue Murder, John Sykes, Tony Franklin and Carmine Appice. Brilliant album. Valley of the Kings and Jelly Rolls are 2 outstanding tracks on that album. 1989 again, he's working with Motley Crue on their Dr. Feelgood album. Dr. Feelgood's good, and Kickstart My Heart, brilliant. Then we move on to the 90s, and it's in 1990 he works with Little Caesar on their self-titled album Little Caesar. Now they're an American rock band. They're not too bad. Down and Dirty and From the Start are pretty good tracks on that album. He also works in 90 with a band called Electric Boys on an album called Funko Metal Carpet Ride. Now they're a Swedish band playing funky hard rock with roots to the 70s groove and psychedelia. All All Lips and Hips is quite a fun song, and also Captain of My Soul. 1991. He works with David Lee Roth on his third album, A Little Ain't Enough. It's not a bad album. This is when it started, it all got a bit wrong for David. But the title track, A Little Ain't Enough, is brilliant, and Tell the Truth is a great bluesy number. Then he works on a huge album, the self-titled Metallica, in 1991. Enter the Sandman, Sad But True, The Unforgiven. Many tracks on there, a really strong album, and very good. He also works on, in 1992, he then goes and works with Cher on a Love Hurts album. That's the one that's got the shoot shoot. It's in his Kiss, yeah. 1992, he goes and works with John Bon Jovi and the Boys, and the Faith album. Pretty good album. I like the track I'll Sleep When I'm Dead, and I love the wonderful Dry County. 1992 again, he forms another band called Rockhead, the self-titled Hot Rockhead. It's probably one of the better albums that he played on and produced. Love Hunter and Sleepwalker, pretty good tracks. 1993, he's working with the Choir Boys, one of my favourite bands from Britain that don't get enough love. Spike and the Boys on the brilliant album Bitter and Twisted. Tramps and Thieves is a great rocker, and then you got The Mild King of New York, which is a pretty cool track. He's back working with Motley Crue, but Vince Neil has left, so it's with John Coraby on Motley Crue, and I don't like that album at all. He's back working with the Cult as well in 1994 on The Cult. Joy and Universal You are brilliant. Then he works on with Skid Row in 1995 on their Subhuman Race. Beat Yourself Blind and Remind to Be Seen are pretty good tracks on a mediocre album. He's back working with Metallica in 96 on the Load album. Bleeding Me's alright, and The Outlaw Torn. Again, it was a bit of a mediocre album. 1997, he's back doing Reload. Fuel's great, and I love Carpad DM. Then in 1997, he's also working with a band called Veruca Salt. And they're an American alternative rock band from Chicago, formed by guitarist Nina Gordon and Louise Post. Good album, actually. I'd never heard it, and I quite like it. And there's a great track on there called Don't Make Me Prove It and Stoneface. Good tracks. He's then working back with Metallica, and he sort of helps them out on that Garage Inc., which has got Turn the Page and their great version of Whiskey in the Jar. That was in 1998. He's working with Bryan Adams as well on A Day Like Today. Come On, Come On is on there, and it's the album that When You're Gone with Mel C's on. Last year of the century, 1999, he's working with Tal Bachman, who's a Canadian singer-songwriter on the Tal Bachman album. Really nice album, some good songs on there, The Darker Side of the Blue, and You Don't Know What It's Like. Start of the new century, he's working with Nina Gordon, who was in Veruca Salt on one of her solo albums. It's called Tonight and the Rest of My Life. Pretty good album. Badway and Camera #1 is pretty good. Paul Hyde he works with. Now Paul is he was one of the people in Paolas with Bob Rock. He's got this. He brought out a solo album called Living Off the Radar. It's not very good. Not a track on there I really like. Staying with the 2000s, working with the Moffats, a pop country band from Canada, featuring brothers Scott, Clint, Bob and Dave. And Submodities. It's not a bad album, but there's a really strong track on there called California. 2001. American Hi-Fi. And the self-titled album American Hi-Fi. American rock band from Boston. They're not too bad. I had a listen to that album and I was quite impressed with it. Flavour of the Week's good and Safer on the Outside. Not too bad. Staying in 2001, works with a Canadian rock band called E. Coli Crush and their album Brand New History. Trash Sinking is good. 2002, he's working with a band called Lady of Our Peace. Now they're another rock band from Canada and the album Gravity. Do You Like It's a pretty good track and Made of Steel. 2003 now, works with a band called Tonic on an album called Head On Straight. They're an American rock band. Roses and Lyre are pretty good. Then he works with Metallica again on the Ill-Fated St. Anger. There's only one track on there worth talking about, and that's Frantic. The rest is horrible. Probably one of the worst albums he ever produced, in my books. 2004, another Canadian rock act called the Tea Party and their Seven Circles album. Around in the 90s and up until 2005. So this was the end of their career. One Step Closer is a pretty good track, as well as Overload. Simple Plan is next. Now they're another band from Montreal. A lot of Canadian. He did produce a lot of Canadian rock bands. Simple Plan, good, not a bad band. Their album Still Not Getting Any, Thank You and Promise are pretty good. Has a break in 2005 and comes back in 2006 and works with Nina Gordon again on her Bleeding Heart Graffiti. Not as strong as her other album, but Suffragette's pretty good. Then we have a band called Lost Prophets, Welsh band from Pontypridd in Wales, and their album Liberation Transmission. The new Transmission's a pretty good track. For All the Times, the Kids and All These Times, another pretty good track. Staying with 2006, he's working with Joan Jett and the Blackhearts on their Sinner album. Riddles is a good track, and then they do it. She does a great version of Sweet's AC/DC as well. Then off to work with the Tragically Hip. Now they're a Canadian rock band again from Ontario, the World Container. The Lonely End of the Rink is great. So is Lovesick. I do like that. Then Payolas forms for Langford Part 1, and it's not very good. I'm not into that at all. Weird band. 2008, Gavin Rossendale, British musician. He is in a band called Bush. Wanderlust. Frontline's a pretty good track. 2008 now. He's a busy old boy, is Bob. Works with The Offspring, American punk band from California. The Rise and Fall and Rage and Grace. What an album. I really enjoyed this one. Trusting You and Stuff Is Messed Up. Then he's back working with the Tragically Hip again on their We Are the Same album. Now the Struggle Has a Name and Frozen in My Tracks is a pretty good track from that album. 2009, he's working with a band called 311 and the album Lifter, another American band from Nebraska. Mix It Up's pretty good. Now remember this Gavin Rossdale and Bush, he produces their 2011 album, The Sea of Memories. They're from the UK. Not a bad album. All My Life and She's a Stallion are the ones that outstand for me on that. 2012, he's back with the Cult on their Choice of Weapon album. Elemental Light and a Pale Horse, the outstanding tracks on that. 2012, he goes and works with Loverboy, band that seem to have been around forever. They may actually cover songs on this one. Rock and Roll Revival's not a bad version. Working for the Weekends, pretty good. 2012, they're back working with The Offspring on the Days Go By album. The Future Is Now is pretty cool, as like this title track is. 2014 took 2013 off. Works with a band called Black Veil Brides. They're an American rock band from Hollywood. And their Black Veil Brides 4. Not a bad album actually. Heart on Fire and Stole the No Man are the outstanding ones on there. Then he's off to work with a young lady called Sarah McLachlan on her album Shine On. She's an American or Canadian songwriter. She's actually sold over 40 million albums worldwide. I'd never heard of her. Monsters and Broken Heart are pretty good. Works with Iain, American, Canadian, singer-songwriter. Bet my friend Steph knows all these. She's from Canada. Everything almost pretty good. Then he goes and helps Bryan Adams on his compilation, his covers album, Track of My Years. It's alright. I haven't heard much about that. I don't like that one as much as the others. Then he's in 2016. We're back with the Cult on the Hidden City album. I love Dark Energy and Birds of Paradise on that. He's back with Bush in 2017 on the Black and White Rainbows. Better of the two albums that I've heard by there. This Is War and Lost and You. 2018 works with a band called RSO, which is Richie Sambora and Oranthe on Radio Free America. It's a pretty decent album. Two great guitarists. Rise and Walk With Me are absolutely brilliant on that. 2019, he's back with Bryan Adams on his Shine a Light album. Part Friday night, part Saturday morning. I like that track. Goes back to good old fashioned Bryan Adams and Driving Under the Influence of Love. Pretty cool tracks. Which leads us to the most current album that he worked on, and that was 2021. And it's The Offspring's Let the Bad Times Roll. Behind You, Your Walls is pretty good, and they're doing the Whole of the Mountain in the Hall of the Mountain King, which is that famous bit of music. They do a great version of that. So as you can see, Bob's been very busy over the years, and he's worked with some great acts. Now this is the hard bit where I have to think my top 5 albums that Bob Rock has produced. So after some deliberation and listening, this is what I've came up with. So at number 5 is from 1993, The Choir Boys. It's their second album, Bittersweet and Twisted. That's a great album. Spike's on here. Guy Bailey, Guy Griffin, Neil Mogg, Rudy Rickman and Chris Johnson. Opens up with Tramps and Thieves, one of my favourite tracks on this album. White Trash Blues is another great track. Wonderful piano work from Chris on that. Can't Park Here is a lot of fun. King of New War, one of the best ballads they ever did. I just adore that track. Don't Bite the Hand is just another great little boogie track. Last Time's great. Debbie's a really good track. Brother Louie, great vocal from Spike. Ode to You, one of my favourite guitar solos on this album. Hates to Please, My St. June. Take No Revenge, another great ballad. Wild, Wild, Wild. Ain't Love Blind. Great album. Great follow up to a little bit of What You Fancy. Excellent album. My number 4 was Kingdom Come. And the debut Kingdom Come. Lenny Wolfe, Danny Stagg, Rick Steer, Johnny B. Frank, and the late James Kotak, who played with Scorpions, of course. Living Out of Touch is a cat corker opening track. Pushing Hard, the bluesy, soulful What Can Be Love. Great vocal from Lenny on that. 17, the killer bass line. James's drums are great on the little boogie thing called the shuffle. Get It On, the one that everyone says it sounds like Led Zeppelin. Don't care, it's a great track. Now Forever After, solid track. Great vocal from Lenny on that. Hideaway, love the guitar solo on that. Loving You, it's okay. Shout It, great rock track. Got a lot of stick. They said it was a clone of Led Zeppelin. I saw them on this album, and they certainly kick some body. Good. Can't remember who they opened up for. It's a long time ago. So number 3 for me is one of my favourite albums by the Cult, Sonic Temple from 1989. The one and only Mr. Ian Astbury's on here, of course, with Billy Duffy. James Stewart's on the bass on this. Eric singing, there's a bit of drumming along with Chris Taylor and Mickey Curry, and Iggy Pop's on here as well. Song King, brilliant track. Killer Riff, one of the best songs on the album. Firewoman, the bass line, woo, from Jamie Stewart. Some great guitar work from Billy on that. American Horse, one of my favourite tracks on the album. Billy's guitar work is fab. Edie, Chow Baby, another corker track. Sweet Soul Sister, the great single off this album, my number 2 song ever. Soul Asylum, some driving riffs on this one, gets your feet going. And New York City, we've got Iggy Pop doing the backing vocals on it. Automatic Blues, so many great tracks on this album. Jamie's bass line and the riffs are cool on that. Soldier Blue, wonderful track. Wake Up the Freedom of Time, it's absolutely brilliant. My number 1 album from the Cult when I rank them. Brilliant. Number 2 then, Blue Murder from 1989. John Sykes, Tony Franklin, Carmine Apiece, with Nick Green doing extras as well. Riot, love that opening piece. The keyboard work is good. From Nick Green. Tony Franklin's signature fretless bass. Solid drumming from Carmine. Sex Child, awesome. Valley of the Kings, my favourite track by Blue Murder. Great bass line from Tony. Co-written by Tony Martin. Some great John Sykes riffs and licks on that one. It's a killer track. Jelly Roll, my second favourite track. It's the acoustic guitar and the electrics. Blue Murder, Carmine's drumming is brilliant on that. Out of Love, it's one of the mediocre love songs on here. Billy is a very solid track. Then we have Ptolemy, great drumming here from Carmine. Black Hearted Woman, bit of a Children of the Night sort of riff from Whitesnake, but who cares? John wrote some great riffs, and that was the last track. Brilliant album. Thought this was going to be John's big thing, and like most projects with John, they did another one and he's disappeared, and I don't think he's ever done anything since. But my number 1 album has to be Metallica, released in 1991. James Hetfield, Kirk Hammett, Jason Newsted's doing the bass, and Lars, and Michael Kamen does the arrangement. Music and Nothing Else Matters. Enter the Sadman, classic. Sad but true. Holier Than Thou, Jason's bass line is cool. The Unforgiven, I love this. They're really into the spaghetti westerns. It's got that spaghetti western feel about it. Rocky's really having a moan this morning. Wherever I May Roam, love the riffs from Lars and Kurt on that. Don't Tread on Me, brilliant set. You get that little bit of America from West I Saw at the beginning. Never Through the Never, heavy as hell. One of the forgotten tracks on here. Nothing Else Matters, classic, great ballad. You wouldn't expect Metallica to be writing ballads. Off Wolf and Man. What can you say? Crash Bang Wallop from Lars. It's the one track it's not one of my favourites. The God That Failed, Jason Newsted's thumping bass line, just absolutely brilliant. My Friend of Misery, great bass player. Straight out of the Cliff Burton book of bass playing, this is. Absolutely brilliant track. The Struggle Within, it's alright. I like the military drum style. You're expecting bagpipes, but you don't get it. And that's the last track. This album, of course, did split the Metallica fans. I like it. I think it's a great album. It's got a lot of guts in it, and I enjoy listening to it. And it's my favourite album produced by Bob Rock. So there we go, a little bit of Bob Rock for you. Some not good albums in that selection. I'll listen to stuff that I'd never heard of, and you know, they won't be worth listening to. Anyway, I'll be back a bit later at 11 o'clock exactly. There's a little live stream where we should have some of the Thursday night gang. We're just going to have a little chat about our favourite moments from the Battle Royale, and then we'll be talking about what's going to happen tonight when we announce the winner and who gets the exclusive t-shirt. So I'll be back a bit later. I've recorded this a little bit earlier, so it gives me plenty of time. So I will see you later at 11 o'clock. Or if you're watching this after, you'll have to go and find it. So bye for now.